All right, what's up, everybody out there? Hope everybody's doing all right. Good to speak with y'all on a Sunday night before Labor Day. Hope you're getting some time to relax a little bit, enjoy the holiday tomorrow. Hopefully, you got some good things going on. We are getting ready for our first game Friday night. So, tomorrow is a typical Labor Day during football season. A early morning Labor Day practice, a Monday practice, which is first of the week. So, a lot of game plan stuff, a lot of figuring out, making sure special teams. It's a little bit different because this happens to be the first game of the season without a spring, without a summer. So a few more concerns than normal, cleaning up some special teams, making sure we are giving enough credence to special teams with a game on Friday, not having a spring to work through or a fall classic to work through some of the glitches and nuances with special teams. So having to do it live for the first time in a real game is a little bit scary, but it is what it is. The team we're playing already played a game this past Friday night, so they've got a game under their belt, a little bit game experience, game reps, and had to go through special teams and everything Friday night. So that makes it a little bit more difficult, being that we didn't have a game this past week. But just trying to piece everything together with the way this pandemic's kind of gone, trying to get everything together on offense and defense. And like most people, trying to figure out who our best 11 are on both sides of the ball, trying to figure out how, thank you, Michael, trying to figure out how to practice. I think one of the things that's different for us is I have a full coaching staff now with a position coach at every position. I am currently not coaching a position every day when everybody is there. I am coordinating the defense, but I am not coaching a position. I have an offensive staff now and an offensive coordinator that's calling his stuff. So I'm excited to have a little bit different role on game nights, be able to watch some film with the defense, make some adjustments, put the game in the offensive coordinator's hands on that side of the ball, and just be there to help with anything they need help with and manage the game. From a timeout perspective, punt perspective, extra points, go for two, things like that. But it's been really exciting the first 2 weeks of practice to be able to kind of walk around and observe some things that I never used to do in the past when I was calling both sides of the ball. I've been able to spend a lot more time with JV. We have a couple young players that I really like that I'm trying to sink my teeth into a little bit more to make sure that they understand how to play our base defense. One of the things I'm a little bit disappointed with right now is I didn't get enough time last year with the JV defense, and they ended up playing a lot more man and man free stuff than I would have liked. And now some of those kids have to play for us on varsity, and without a spring and without a true real summer and a fall classic, we're now having to go through. Yeah, I've seen the same thing the game I was just at Friday night. But we've now had to go through some things, teaching coverages and different blitz patterns and coverages behind the blitzes that we're trying to teach. And normally you would do some things in the spring and get the wrinkles out and get kids used to what you're trying to do, and you would have that to teach in a game setting. And then you'd have a fall classic where you could, you'd be through a normal summer into a fall classic, you'd be, adding some more things to see what your kids can play. And then going into week one, you'd have a pretty good idea. And right now where we're at going into week one, we're still trying to figure out who our best 11 are, who are going to be able to handle a game setting and the speed of the game and the physicality of the game. But we're also still trying to figure out what we do well. From every standpoint on defense, we're trying to figure out how exactly we need to fit runs. We've got 8 new starters on defense. A lot of kids that don't have any varsity reps under their belt. So, we got to figure out what coverages they're comfortable with. We got to figure out what, not only what, but how many pressures they can handle in a game setting. We got to figure out how they're comfortable within our run fits. Are they kids that are going to be able to, do we have the ends that can squeeze and spill? Yeah, it's amazing, Michael. You guys must have done a good job in the during the limited time you were able to do some work over the summer, and then a good job keeping them hydrated. But just trying to figure out what our kids can handle and can we use the same run fits we've used the last 2 years. Like I've mentioned in some of the other videos that we've talked about and some of the videos I've done, we had a Division I defensive end that was a really good player, and you don't know how much he contributed to the success of the defense until you have to do it again within that scheme with some different players. So only having one returning defensive lineman, we're trying to figure out right now what the best way is for us to go about fitting runs, how much we're going to have to move, how much base can we play, how much are we going to have to pressure, what can our guys on the back end, thank you, Carmine. What can our guys on the back end handle? Right now we've only got very generic base coverages in our split field package, and our 3x1 stuff is we've kept very generic because we have so many new players and so many young players. So it's just going to be interesting. Obviously it's going to be good to be back. It's going to be good to have a game week. It's going to be good to have some semi-normalcy, although the game week won't be normal, having to figure out how we're going to do water, how we're going to do the sideline, where we need to stand, where people need to stand on the sideline, how much help we can have on the sideline. How much is pregame going to be affected? What do we have to do differently based on our restrictions and our protocols? And so it's not going to be the same game week, but as far as preparing for a game week and practice and whatnot, that's the part that's exciting, because outside of the COVID restrictions that you're working under with social distancing in practice and some of the things that you have to do right now, that's the only thing that's really different. Other than that, the game week is, within itself is the same. A little bit new for us, though, because we're practicing a little bit differently. We're trying to, because we have a full staff on both sides of the ball, we're trying to now get some more reps on each side of the ball that we've been missing in the past when we've had to focus with more two-way players and coaches kind of, myself coaching a position on offense and defense and having to do more things kind of together as a group and spending less time on offense and defense in general. So you don't get as many of the nuances or the fundamentals or techniques taught that you want. So, I'm really looking forward to this season, being able to spend more time, kind of keeping offense and defense separate for the most part, unless we need to do some good on good periods or some special teams periods. We're going to try and keep JV and varsity offense separate from JV and varsity defense. Right now, we've kind of got, we think we've got starters on both sides of the ball that we can practice in a format that is similar to how colleges or bigger schools would practice when they don't have a lot of guys going both ways. Now we do, we have some situations on JV and varsity where our depth is affected, so we need some guys two-way as backups. But right now we don't have any two-way starters, with the exception of currently on JV at tight end. We have to use a linebacker at tight end, but I've kind of been telling those guys on offense they need to see if they can find another body that can learn how to play tight end so that we can practice the way we want to practice. And we're still going to have to find time to get reps for the two-way players, even though they're backups. So incorporating your practice plan and trying to figure out how you want to practice to get a couple of guys that are backups their work in the game plan while being able to do as much work and an extensive job on one side of the ball 3 days a week with those players to get their game plan and their adjustments and their execution techniques and fundamentals down. So it's going to be interesting to kind of change the practice plan from how we've been doing some things in the past. And, for me, being able to focus on just the defensive side of the ball has been very nice. Being able to spend more time with the JV, but also knowing that the JV is taken care of if I wander down to the offensive side of the ball to just kind of check how everything is going there and make sure I'm on the same page with what we're doing, what the game plan is. If I can give, any advice, I want to be there for, the guy that's running the offense is a former head coach, and I've coached against him several times. Good friend of mine, great football mind. I have 100% trust in what they're doing. They met as an offensive staff today, and I wasn't even at the meeting, so it has nothing to do with with trust or wanting to put my 2 cents in. But what it does have to do with is I still am the most experienced offensive coach that can help him. So I want to be down there to help him, see some things and lend an opinion when he needs it, because, with 22 years experience and almost all of them at some point or another on the offensive side of the ball, I'm the next best set of eyes he's got. We've got some younger coaches that I think are going to be really good. I like what they're doing right now. I like the energy that they bring to the practices, but I'm still the next best set of eyes outside of himself. So if I can go down there during any of the parts of practice to help him, that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now. So, it's been interesting you practice a certain way for a long time. And as a head coach, you draw your practice plans up and you're used to doing things a certain way. And now we're kind of deviating from that a little bit, which I think is for the better. So I'm excited, but it's new, and it's different. And, it's new and different going into week one with no games under your belt. It's new and different going into week one with players that their first experience is going to be playing in a live game that counts towards your record. You don't have that chance to make those rookie mistakes and get away with them because they don't count. So a lot of interesting, neat little nuances, but I think overall, I think the best part is it's we're back to a game week. We're back to somewhat normal. We've got 6 home games this week. We're home, so we're excited about that. Playing a team that travels really well. They've already bought their allotment of 300 or 290 tickets that they can buy in our stadium. So, that's exciting from a revenue standpoint, a program standpoint. So all those things are that are somewhat different. There's a lot of things that are somewhat the same. So I'm interested to see how this game week goes with the new practice plans. I'm interested to see can we get – it's going to be so hard for me at least. The thing that's going to be tough with so many new players and so many inexperienced players, I think it's going to be tough to determine whether or not the way that we're practicing and the things that we've decided to do pardon the interruption, but it's game week, so my nerves need to be steadied a little bit. With so many new players and so many green, raw players, it's going to be hard, I think, to determine whether the way we're practicing or not is better for us, if you don't get the results you want early on, because a lot of those players aren't maybe ready to play right now. And, that's just for us, that's the nature of the beast. Like right now, I like a lot of the kids that we have. I like the things that we're doing, but without a spring and without a classic, there's a lot of kids that aren't really ready for, what a program is going to bring to the table that is got, some physicality and plays with a really good tempo on offense. So the game's going to be moving fast. We've got some guys that just aren't ready for that, and it's not their fault. It's not being negative on them. It's not, it's detrimental to them, but it's, again, it's not blaming them. It's not 2 weeks ago, Carmine officially, it's just the sheer reality that without a spring and a classic, kids that are coming up from JV or kids that might be first-year players that came out to play football for the first time that have some talent, those kids aren't ready to play a game yet. And, that'll show up on Friday and try to keep telling my coaching staff after we scrimmaged this past Friday, how many of those things are going to show up. You got to be ready for them. We got to coach through them. We got to try and get these kids better, because I think there's a pretty good nucleus. When we scrimmaged on Friday on offense, they started 2 10th grade receivers. They rotated in a 10th grade receiver. They started a 10th grade tailback. They started a junior quarterback and a junior tight end. So when you look at all those skill positions with all that inexperience and kids that didn't play varsity snaps for us the year before, And 2 weeks into camp in a scrimmage, getting ready for a game the following Friday, those are the kids that are in a new offense. So, they're in a new offense with some formation variations, some schematic variations, terminology is new, and these kids are all kids that don't have a lot of football under their belt. So, as a head coach, I think what you've got to do is you've got to be able to coach the staff to understand where the growing pains are going to be, how to stay positive, when you're looking for results and you're trying to do things. I think in a scrimmage setting the other day, the OC was trying to do some of the things that he likes to do with check with me stuff and checking some runs opposite, getting out of some plays and into some new plays. And a lot of that stuff is brand new for the kids, and they're kids that don't have a lot of experience. You have to understand that there's going to be some setbacks, and there's going to be, some negative results that you're going to have to deal with. And sorry, I got my cat, one of my kittens in here going crazy. There's going to be some negative results that you have to deal with and you have to work through. And it's the same thing on defense. We lined up and, we tried to run some of our zone pressures with 4 under 2 deep and 3 under 3 deep and some of our 2 under 3 deep hot pressures. And a lot of those defensive backs just weren't ready for how fast the stuff was moving. And then the different formation variations in a game and how it might change their alignment and not necessarily the technique per se, but, the alignment where you're leaning, two of our base 3x1 checks, how we're better, how we're better to the trip side in one coverage, but better to the single side in the other coverage, and what we need to do based on where the ball is on a hash mark. And if they try to go, trips, FIB, we don't want to borrow the backside safety into the boundary. So we have to be in our trip check that leaves the backside safety to the field. So, just all those little nuances and some D linemen that are brand new. So depending on how you're playing option football or read game, or depending on how you're trying to, if you're trying to spill some things, all those things that become new to a kid that's never seen live action at the varsity level. So, just trying to talk to your coaching staff about staying positive, working through it, understanding where the setbacks are going to be. And so that part is interesting as a coach. That's part of the fun. That's why you do it. It's part of being a head coach, trying to manage a staff that may be getting frustrated at times with the kids, and trying to manage kids that may be getting frustrated, and then just trying to work on the chemistry within the program as you go through some of those down times or poor results or setbacks, trying to manage the chemistry in the program when you have so many young kids. So that in the first 2 games he scored over 110 points, and the quarterback is a Power 5 player. Just wondering how you get the kids motivated. Good luck. Abdul, the first thing I can tell you, good luck, obviously, if they're that good with that talented of a quarterback. But, you got to challenge the kids mentally. You got to let them know how great of an experience it's going to be playing a team that's that talented. You got to let them know that if they want to get on film and be college football players, this is your chance to do it against a Power 5 quarterback that a lot of teams are looking at. If you want to be a scholarship player or a college football player, this is probably the game to show up. And just depending on the makeup of your team, every team is different. Sometimes you can really get after your team. Thank you, Daniel. Sometimes depending on the makeup of your team, you can really get after your team and challenge them. Sometimes you got to lay back a little bit. With the team I have right now with so many young kids, I don't know how much I could challenge them in a situation like that. I think the moment would be a little bit too big for some of our young kids right now. But I think if we keep working in a year when these kids have 10 varsity games under their belt, if we came across a setting like that, I think I could get after my kids pretty good. Being a head coach, you have to pick and choose and know the makeup of your team. Like right now, we got a lot of young kids. There's a lot of immaturity. Sometimes when I want to use my old tactics and challenge kids mentally, some of those kids aren't ready for that, and they kind of don't respond to that. So I have to change. Pepper, there's Pepper in the back getting on film. I have to change how I do things a little bit because the kids just aren't old enough and they're not scarred enough, and they're not ready to handle that. So it's a great challenge though, Abdul. You got to look at it with your coaches and your kids and your players, or if you're a player, you got to look at it as a great challenge. And the other two teams haven't had a lot of success, so it can't hurt going in. Maybe you put together a game plan that's a little bit more risky. Maybe you roll a dice and you take some chances on special teams, and maybe you move or pressure a little bit more, because if they've already scored 110 against the other two teams, what's the difference if they score 50 against you? They've done it against everybody else. So it's not like, I like that situation better than I do going into a game against a team that's been shut out twice. Now the pressure's on you. They haven't scored against anybody. If you can't stop them or they score against you, now that makes you feel and your kids feel it's a little bit dejecting, because your results are so much different. So I think I'd almost rather have a game like that where somebody's been on a roll and scoring that many points. They're that talented, because if they do it to you, they've done it to everybody else. So the first thing I would look at, Jacob, is there talent at the lower levels? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Is there something that you can work on to develop? Is there any immediate short-term goals that can be, preached to, things like if you're taking over a team that didn't win a game last year, can you win a game? If you're taking over a team that hasn't scored a lot of points, can you score more points? If you're taking over a team that's been terrible on defense, can you hold teams to less yards or less points? You're looking for short-term, goals that can, without necessarily saying go to the playoffs, win a district, win a title. You're looking for short-term goals that can be accomplished so that you can keep building the program and moving it forward. And you're looking for any bit of success that you can find within the program, let alone, whether it be a win, whether it be competing. Every program is different, and your program is no exception to that. So, wherever you are with that program, you have to find ways to motivate and find some goals that can be accomplished, so that regardless of the result of games, you still feel like you're moving in the right direction. So, I've talked about this before. 3 years ago, when the second year that I took over the program that I'm at right now, we went 1-9 with a lot of young players, and the following year we went 6-4, and everything was about, short-term goals. So obviously we wanted to win more than one game. We wanted to be more competitive in games. Then we started winning some games, and now it's like, okay, we want to have a winning season. And then, we got to a point where we were going to have at least a 500 season or a winning season, and we had a chance to win a district and go to the playoffs. So now we want to go, compete for the district and go to the playoffs. So, the goals started real simply. We want to play better football. We want to win more than one game. We want to compete in more games and be in more games late. And then all of a sudden it starts going downhill, and the ball starts rolling downhill, and you're competing more, and you're staying in games, and you're winning more games, and then you're competing for districts and playoffs. And, so you just look at wherever you're at in the program. Every program's different. The results are different. Your expectations are different. So you're looking for short-term goals and successes that you can accomplish, and things that have to be things that you can get done so that the team feels like they're moving in a positive direction. 6'5", 230 is tough as a quarterback. We played back in the day when Tebow was in high school. We had to play Tim Tebow 3 times, and when he's bigger than 10 of your defensive players and faster than 9 or 10 of them, it's not a great matchup. When he's coached really well, it's not a great matchup. When they do really good things schematically, it's not a good matchup. So, again, we took it as a challenge the years that we played him, and his 10th grade year, we stayed in the game. His 11th and 12th grade year, it was just discouraging what they were able to do to us. But that same team went to the playoffs later on and made a great run. So I think that scarred some of those guys when they were 10th and 11th graders. And then, the following year or two, we put together some good football teams. And I think playing against Tim Tebow and the rest of the football team that they had at that school and that coaching staff, I think that made us a better program. So, I think moving forward, you won't see 6'5", 230 at quarterback every week. So it's a daunting task this week, but I think it's going to make you a better football program. So, that's a typical problem in pattern match coverage. One of the problems we have right now is our guys, after their initial read, they all look at the quarterback. Our safeties read two goes to the flat. We need to get our eyes and feet to one, and we look back at the QB, and that's not good. Trying to keep their feet active in the coverage when it's pattern match is something that's, difficult to teach, but all you can do is keep repping it. All you can do is keep doing drills, and hopefully if you're filming them, you could show them where they're stopping their feet and where they're looking in the backfield. And if you're working palms, the best thing to do is take the 3 or 4 beaters that are going to give you issues and just rep those routes over and over again and make it as tough as possible for the kids. So put 2 to the flat with 1 vertical. If the corner triggers on 2, see if the safety can get to 1. If it's the flood concept where it's go 10-yard sail or out, you got to get that. You got to get that underneath palms linebacker, strong safety, whoever it is. You got to get him to push with width, stay in that window to make that a more difficult throw. Depending on how you play the communication of your corner and safety, if that's something that the safety declares vertical and he's going to have to drive that 10-yard out, that's tough to do. So you need some underneath help. Then you go post over dig over post, things like that they're going to go to, getting a safety down on the dig and having the corner have to get over the top of the post. You're going to work that as many times as you can. Putting 3 vertical on your inside linebacker. All the beaters that you got to work on. As far as their feet stopping, I think you just got to keep doing coverage drills, and do some drills with reads to where if it's the safety or whoever it is, just keep repping the reads of 2 to the flat and 1 vertical, and make sure he understands that he's got to get his eyes and his feet to 1. Do that in individual. Do that with your safeties coach. Do that with your corners coach, whatever you need. And then put it together in a half line drill, and then put it together in 7-on-7. And I think that's something it's got to be reps that are done over and over again. And then it's got to be something that can be videotaped that you can show the kids. A lot of those kids don't feel, for some reason, a lot of those kids don't feel that they're stopping their feet. They don't really know what you're trying to tell them. Kinesthetically, some of them just don't have that type of awareness. A lot of our guys don't realize they're looking at the quarterback, and they'll fight you tooth and nail to tell you they're not looking at the quarterback until you share huddle film with them and make some notes in there and make them look at it. And then maybe if you watch practice with your guys until you watch practice with them and say, all right, look, tell me that you're not looking at the quarterback, and you pause it and you show them their helmet, and then there's no denying it because it's on film. So, here's the issue, in my opinion, Kevin, and again, just my opinion. Quarters becomes depending on how you're trying to play quarters, if your coach means he just wants to backpedal the corner in a quarter and the safety in a quarter and play 4 across, then I don't know if I can help you with that, because we don't do that. If he wants to play quarters the way I know quarters should be played as a pattern match, you're going to have the same issues with feet stopping, because we pattern match quarters. It's a different pattern match than palms, but quarters is a pattern match defense for us. So, their feet stopping in quarters would be the same issue. But even if your coach wanted to play 4 across in the secondary, at some point they need to transition out of their back pedal into breaks, not stop their back pedal. So if their feet stop during pattern match, there's a good chance their feet might stop when they're backpedaling, because that's some type of physical error that they're making along with a mental error. But, their feet might stop. You got to get their feet to stop, period, in any coverage, because they're going to have to transition from back pedals to breaks to, open into post to playing post corner or whatever it may be. So I don't think there's a coverage. Your coach is probably just frustrated, and he wants to umbrella 4 across deep to eliminate the coverage bust that might be happening in palms. But that's just a short-term fix for a larger problem that is some type of disconnect between kids understanding when, where, and why their feet are stopping and what is causing their feet to stop. And that is probably the hardest part of all that, is probably trying to figure out why they would want to stop their feet. What is making them stop their feet when they make their original read? If they can, disseminate their original read and what their responsibility is based on the read and the pattern match, then they should be able to take their feet to their responsibility, if that makes sense. So if it's 2 to the flat, I don't know what you mean by that, Kevin. Stutter with what? If it's 2 to the flat yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to ask the kids what made them stop their feet, why they would stop their feet. If you're playing palms and it's 2 to the flat and you need to get your eyes and feet to one who might be running vertical, I have no logical understanding if one is outside. If 2 is, let's just say if 2 is my thumb and 1 is out here and 2 goes to the flat and I have to get to 1, there's no way I should even be thinking about stopping my feet. I can't get to 1 without running to get to 1. So I don't even know what would make them stop their feet. Something I can tell you that happens sometimes in other coverages, a lot of times, like we'll have post safeties that when they backpedal, if they're reading through the queue and the queue does something that they think is going to make him throw the ball, sometimes they stop their feet when you're telling them to, backpedal and play center field until the quarterback throws the ball and then break on the ball and be an athlete. Sometimes they see things that for whatever reason make them, something the quarterback might be doing that makes them stop their feet. Maybe he pats the ball or his front hand comes off and they think they're going to get some type of ball thrown. But understanding the problem and why the problem occurs is the biggest reason. So if the kids can't answer or if they don't know why they're stopping their feet, then you've just got to continue to keep drilling and repping it and, showing them film to get them to understand, all right, look, this is an issue we have. And the only way we can alleviate the issue is to keep working through the issue and to try and figure out the reasoning behind stopping your feet. Yeah, you'll never get me other than prevent or something like that. You're never going to get me to, if you're just going to backpedal and play quarters across, maybe you should just start the kids at the goal line and move them up. It's just, obviously your head coach is frustrated. He wants to, it's hurting the defense. He wants to fix it. I get it. But to me, that is just, that is a stopgap, quick fix, Band-Aid on something that is not, I don't think, going to help you play better football. You're never going to get extra guys to the run. You're never going to trigger as hard on some now screens and some things that pattern matching would allow you to trigger on. You're just going to kind of create a safe umbrella for a cross that maybe might help you defend. Maybe, and again, not knowing your situation, not knowing your situation of what's happening. Maybe he just wants to defend the deep ball better. Maybe he's tired of getting beat by post dig or go out or whatever the combinations are, floods or four verts, whatever the combinations are that are hurting you guys. He probably wants to slow down the things that are hurting you guys. But I think that's a Band-Aid on a bigger wound that is, not going to stop the bleeding. Here's the only thing I could tell you with that, Kevin. And this is a philosophy that I learned in 2 under 3 deep hot coverages. And I got this directly from Michigan State when Pat Narduzzi was there. Guys aren't open unless the quarterback sees them and throws them the ball. So when you see guys running open on the field, if the quarterback doesn't see it and doesn't throw it to them, technically they're not open. And I know that's hard for people. It's a hard pill for people to swallow. And that's a hard reasoning for you to make to your head coach. But not to say that fixes the problem, because eventually there may be a team that sees them and throws it to them. I'm not saying that fixes the problem, but as far as physically being open, unless the quarterback sees them and throws the ball to them, yeah, they might have been quote unquote open, but if they don't get the football, it doesn't really matter. So, um, but I get it as a head coach. I see where he's coming from, and I can understand his logic. And, um, at the end of the day, um, you know, you have a feather, he wears the whole headdress. So you do what he tells you to do, and then you try your best to convince him of why you need to keep working through the other part. And not that I wish this on anybody, but if you start getting beat by now screens, or you start getting beat in a run game because you can't get safeties involved, then maybe you can use that as leverage to go back to the coach and say, hey, coach, can we just go back and fix our stuff? Because right now we're just putting a Band-Aid on something that needs a tourniquet. I agree with you, Tony, 100%. Doesn't matter what coverage you play. It has to be repped, and it has to be repped in half line, and has to be repped in 7-on-7, and then you have to give them some team reps where there's actually a line in there, and there's run reads and other things going on. So it's got to be repped. There is no magic coverage. Talk about away side blitz zone coverage versus pro and twins. Depending on the experience of your kids is going to depend on how many things you play on the away side. If it's a single receiver, last year we carried 4 or 5 answers to the single side. Right now we only carry 2 because our kids are so new. If it's twins right now, we have a very standard way of playing twins on the backside that we kind of have to play right now because our kids are so new. Our pressures don't necessarily come, quote unquote, from the away side as much as they do. They come from the field and the boundary. They come from the middle. So we have some stuff that I would love to do to the back. We have some stuff that I would love to do is check with me stuff. 3-by-1. We don't do it currently. We're not ready to do it right now. But the last 2 years, 3-by-1, we had some backside blitzes to the single where we, would play our mix 3-by-1 stuff to the trips, and then to the backside we would lock the corner and either safety or the backer, or we'd lock the backer and the safety and corner fire. We would create 5-man pressures coming from the single side while playing our pattern match zone defense to the trip side. But something you got to be careful with that is you can't let anybody from the pattern match trip side get to the zone side. Just some different nuances there when you're combining zone coverage and man coverages, which currently right now that's something we're doing. Sometimes in 2-by-2, we've got some zone stuff to the front side and some man stuff to the back side because of some inexperience right now. So, what ends up happening is you got to make sure that if you're not playing palms on both sides, you got to make sure that you can't let guys from the zone side get across to the man side. So you got to talk a bunch with your kids about cutting crossers from the zone side and not letting them get to the man side. And I would like to, in 2-by-2, I would like to progress to playing palms to both sides. We're just not really there yet. I think we can get there in our base defense, but right now we're not really there. So we're doing some things that I think fit our kids a little bit better. Antoine, how you doing? I think we're doing some things in coverage that fit our kids a little bit better right now. And as they get a little bit more battle tested, as they get some more reps under their belt, as they understand split field coverages a little bit more. And the problem we have currently with our split field coverages is all of our down safeties that could possibly be away from the free safety are all kids that have not played varsity football for us. And the kids that played JV football last year played a lot of man and man free, so they don't know how to and without a spring, a full summer, and a kickoff classic, right now they don't really currently know how to dictate your free safety dictates all your read side stuff and all your passing strength stuff, and then your away safety dictates the cut side, away side coverages. So if you have a single on the backside, the away safety is going to be the one that dictates how you play it. And then, like I said, based on how much you have in, they have some different things they can do depending on where the ball is, depending on down and distance, depending on who the single is. Well, when your away safeties don't have a lot of reps under their belt and time under the saddle or in the saddle, they can't make as many calls to the backside because they just don't know what to call and why. So, right now we're trying to get them to understand the two things that we can do to the single and how to make a coverage call that the corner can play. And then we've got to progress to which one is a better call in certain situations. And then maybe towards the end of the year, progress to playing the other two or three things that we could play to the to the single when we master the two things that we're playing now. And then when they see two receivers on the backside, if they know the coverage on the front side, they now can understand what coverages we can play on the backside. So right now it's just one of those deals where I'm comfortable only allowing them to do certain things because they are struggling recognizing formations and calling the things that we need to play in our base split field structure. And then they're also struggling when we go to we play 3-3-5, Kevin. So we play 5 DBs. So when I say down safety, our safety to the passing strength is really like a Sam linebacker or like a nickel safety. We play a nickel safety every down. So to the passing strength side, there's going to be a safety down all the time that becomes the Sam linebacker or the nickel safety. And then away from that, there's going to be a safety that is to the away side that might be high on the hash mark and he might be down on what's up, Frizz? He might be down in the box, playing an 8-man front type deal as a D-gap curl flat player. So our safeties are hybrid players that have a lot of different things that they have to be able to do. But the issue with that when you're playing split field coverage is our base defense is meant to be a check with me system that allows our kids to be able to play different formations quickly and different formations with multiplicity so that within our base structure, we can line up to different formations and we can make some coverage checks to different formations. So it's really, as a defensive coordinator, it's my way of playing check with me to the offense. So if I make a base coverage call, I don't know what the offense comes out in. The offense comes out in something. Our kids now have the ability based on the set, split the ball down the middle. The free safety makes a call. He has receivers to his side, whether it's 1, 2, 3, a tight end and a flanker, 2 removed, trips. So he's going to make a coverage call. And then the backside's going to have a single receiver or 2 receivers. They'll never have 3 because they can't be on the backside. If the free safety is to the strength and there's trips to the front side, there can only be 2 to the backside. So the backside never has 3 when they're on the away side. So teaching them how to split the ball. So the ball comes out every snap. You do formation rec as many times as you can. And the ball gets set. And once the ball gets set, they're going to put X amount of receivers on one side, X amount of receivers on the other. Free safety calls the strength. Then the free safety and the away safety have to determine the coverages you want to play within your base system. So there's a lot of teaching involved for us early on, and then there's a lot of growing up to do within the system to where the longer you're in the system, the more things you can check to and the more answers you can have. But there's a lot of teaching involved because even when we pressure, so we'll play 4 under 2 deep and come with America's blitz, and depending on it, the safety to the side of the blitz is going to be a extra run fitter 2 seam dropper, but the safety away from the side of the blitz is going to be a deep half player. So we've got a situation where our down safeties in the same pressure, depending on whether they're to the call side or away side, are going to have 2 different coverage responsibilities and 2 different run fits responsibilities. And when you have new kids, that's not easy to do, even though you think it's easy. And even though we think the rules are simple and how we teach the rules, we think they're simple. To those kids, they're not really simple. And it's when we 3-under-3 deep pressure, the backside safety spins deep middle. So he has to understand if he's on the call side, he's actually the D-gap field side blitzer. But if he's away from the call, he actually has to spin to the middle and become the deep middle player. So there is a lot of teaching involved with hybrid safeties. But in the long run, when you develop players, it gives you more tools in the toolbox to defend things the way you want to defend them. And that's why right now I'm dead set on spending a ton of time with our JV defense, especially on the back end, so that I can get those young kids able to line up and play split field coverages as ninth graders or 10th graders, so that when they go up to play varsity, if we have a spring and a summer and a kickoff classic, we now can start to put all the tools into the toolbox for the kids. There's nothing worse as a coach than going into a game and only being able to play things a certain way. And when the other team is ripping it to shreds, you don't have an answer for the kids. But at the same time, if your answer can't be played by the kids, then it's really not an answer. So, as a coach, you've got to dictate. So I've got to be careful this week with what we do and how we do it, because I got to put my kids in a good position. But if I can't make all the adjustments I want to make, at the same time, double-edged sword, I'm not putting them in a good position if I can't protect them the way I'm supposed to be able to protect them in our, base defense split field coverage rules. So catch 22, double-edged sword with that. So you just got to be careful with what you're doing. And, eventually, to me, a system is something that you can start teaching the young kids and something that you take time teaching the young kids. What happens to us on the JV level is our coaches get frustrated because the young kids can't play it. And then on game night, because they want to stay competitive, they have some success with man-free pressure and zero pressure. And they end up calling only man-free and zero pressure because we can't line up in split field coverages. And throughout the course of the year, we end up doing that and not teaching split field coverages. And when those kids get up to us, we have actually done them a disservice because they don't know how to play the things that I want to play on varsity. And then I have to slow down what I'm teaching and how I'm teaching things to those kids. And, in a roundabout way, to make a long story short, I'm not protecting those kids on the football field because I'm not giving them enough answers to defend what we need to defend, because we only can play certain things. So, long conversation, long story, but I'd be dead set against changing and just going to 4 across and not teaching your pattern match stuff. Now, I will tell you, though, as a head coach, sometimes personnel might dictate a change. So, like, we've got a young secondary player that I really like as a 9th grade kid. I don't know if he's ever going to be able to play all of our split field stuff as a free safety. He may be a post safety. He may be a middle of the field ball hawk that you just play in 3 deep and man free and take a lot of the thoughts out of his head from getting lined up, making coverage calls, and just let him be a ball player. So, excuse me. So, moving forward, not this year, but somewhere down the road, if he's going to be our guy, we may be a one high post safety team. And that's not because I don't like our pattern match or, I don't like our split field stuff. That's because I think this kid is talented enough to where if I can get him to do one thing in the middle of the field and he does it really, really well, then I may have to sacrifice some of the things I want to do in coverage to make him reach his potential, rather than, if he can't understand what we're doing at that position, the only thing to do is either switch positions and make it a little bit easier on him, or or play something that's conducive to him if you feel like he's that talented. And as a young kid, I think he is that talented. Or you got to move him to a place that's less responsibility. So for us in our defense, it may be physically one of the hardest to play, but corner has the least amount of responsibilities coverage-wise. And they don't have to call coverages. So there's a lot of man coverage that we have to be able to play. There's some zone pressure stuff where they got to be a trap flat player. Obviously, they have to be able to play palms and play our two open pattern match stuff in palms. But the corner has less responsibilities than the safeties do. They don't have as many run fits. We're very rarely in true cover two where they're D-gap run players. So they don't have as many run fits and they don't have as many changes in coverage as the safeties do. So for us in our defense, the way we teach it, the safeties have to think a little bit more than the corners. So for this kid, playing him at corner may be the only other chance you got, because if he can't process quick enough to play safety, then you've got to make a change. But that's a change we would make because of the personnel and the talent, not a change that we would make, because we don't like our split field stuff. So running around two trap behind blitzes, but I've always been afraid of giving up the post at two, to number two, be it off of four verts or double post. What you got to understand is you're sacrificing some reroutes to send a fifth rusher. You're sacrificing some reroute stuff to send that fifth rusher. You are, you are hoping that you're protecting your palms look and some other looks by baiting the throws that beat palms, the throws to the flats, the now screens, and the things that people try to do to palms. You're hoping that the trap coverage, for us, we show palms when we play trap, and we just have to teach the corners how to do it. But when we do it, they won't get hands on number one the way we play it. I think it's too difficult to teach that kid how to trap the flat and get hands on one. I think it can be done. I just think it's difficult. And then the two seam players, the front side two seam player that has all gaps protected. So to the side, we're bringing the pressure. If we have A gap, B gap, C gap accounted for, that two seam player can widen out and he could possibly get hands on two and reroute two. But to the side away from the blitz, the two seam player probably has an open B gap. So based on formation and alignment in a 2x2 set, it might be tough for him to get hands on a two vertical if he's also a B gap run fitter, if that makes sense to you. So when you're playing trap, you're sacrificing reroutes and hands on to help the safety. But you're also adding a fifth rusher, hoping that you can get home before they can throw those vertical routes. Your next, depending on the route combination, the next best bet, if you're getting two on post and one on vertical or something like that, is you got to teach the trap corner as he traps the same way you teach him in cover two. So if I go to trap the flat, when I dive inside of one to aggressively trap the flat, if two's going vertical, I may need to sink so that I can help the whole shot to one. But again, those are things that take a lot of time, a lot of reps. To take a corner and dive inside of one, trap, and read two vertical and sink, it's not difficult physically for corners. It's difficult mentally to understand the technique involved to trap flat, two's vertical, sink. Even though I'm not going to get hands on one and reroute, I can sink and help the whole shot depending on what's happening to the half field safety, who may be under duress because of the zone pressure. We can't reroute some things the way we want to. But we also play a Tampa 2 version where we protect the middle of the field with the free safety, and then our corners go down and funnel, hard jam funnel number ones in a true, we'll play a true two deep scheme, but we'll protect the middle of the field with it won't be a Mike linebacker like the NFL college Tampa 2 stuff, but because we're an odd front, and if we rush 3 and drop 8, the free safety can become a guy that defends the middle of the field versus 3 vertical, or you can defend him in the middle of the field. It almost becomes 2 under 3 deep, it almost becomes an aggressive 3 deep with your curl flat players jamming, funneling number one outside in, if you want to do it that way. We kind of play it like Iowa State does. So our free safety reads 3. If 3 is If 3 is not a vertical threat, then our free safety becomes more of a hook curl player if they can't get a 3 vertical. But we're also jam funneling number 1 in to take pressure off the safety in a true cover 2 fashion when we do that. So, there's other ways to protect that stuff for us. A true, whether it's a trap too deep or a true too deep for us is different than our pattern match. So what we're hoping to do is if we play both and we show both, we're hoping that we can slow some of the hopefully we can slow some of the true coverage beaters down by saying that we're not always in palms, or we're not always in middle of the field open, middle of the field closed, or we're not always one high safety, or however you want to look at it. For us as a quarter half team, technically, if you want to get technical about it, it's not cover 3, but it's actually a 3 deep coverage. If that makes sense to people, we're playing quarter half. We're not playing 3 deep, but we have 3 deep defenders. So, in essence, a lot of the times that looks like it's middle of the field open, but it tends to look like one high safety, not 2 high safety. So, trying to protect those coverages with what you do and protect. The biggest thing on defense with protecting coverages is trying to control and protect the route beaters. First off, teaching the route beaters, that's number 1. So when we do, like I said earlier, when we do half line, I'm going to make sure I have the most difficult things in palms so that our kids can work the beaters. But at the same time, in a game plan, what I have to do is I have to be able to have other coverages that protect the coverage beaters that I'm in. So I have to protect palms with some other things. I have to protect quarters with some other things. I have to protect middle of the field open with middle of the field closed, if that makes sense. So for us, Michael, it depends on what we're doing to the single side. We have some stuff that's Meg. That's Meg on the single side where we're going to play that guy everywhere. We have some stuff that's mod where we're only going to play him on deep routes and vertical stems, and anything else he does under or short, we're not going to play. So we have some things that are Meg, man everywhere he goes, and then some things that are mod, either man on demand or man on deep routes, man outside deep. I've heard mod 8 different ways, but we teach our kids in those coverages that they've got all the vertical stems and all the deep routes of number 1, and somebody else has the smash or the China, the under, the hitch, the slant, those things. And then we have some Meg concepts where the corner has to play 1 everywhere. And usually when we're doing that, it's because we're trying to get the safety involved in a run fit to be extra in the run fit. So we can't really help. We can't help the corner on number 1 unless it's true drop back pass, because we're trying to steal a guy in the run fit. So for us, it really depends on what the coverage call is to the backside on whether or not we can help the corner. That'll dictate whether it's Meg or mod or however you want to look at it. Tough question, Carmine, because to me, trips checks mean you are defending something in 3-by-1 while giving something else up, if that makes sense. So, the easiest way to look at it in its simplest terms, and this is the way I would look at it this way if I was an offensive coordinator. Do you have to borrow a backside safety to help the front side of trips? And if you do, that's going to leave you vulnerable to certain run game issues, quarterback run game, and then it's going to leave you vulnerable to single side receivers that are the best player on the offense. If you do things that help you in the run game to the single, or help you get 2 for 1 or 3 for 2 on top of the single side, if the back releases, if the back releases that way. So if you do things to the single that allow you to get +1 in the passing game, you're probably doing some things that are going to get you beat to the trip side, either in run support or intermediate underneath passing game, or potentially 4 verticals with the matchup of their number 2 on your strong safety. There are some other zone coverages that you can play where you kind of try and eliminate number 2 with a reroute, and then you try and, play a corner between 1 and 2, a safety between 2 and 3, and you can still leave 2 for 1 on the backside. Is your version of stress man on 1, palms on 2 and 3 with the safety and the outside linebacker? It sounds like it based on that description, and if that's what it is, that you just have to understand that there's going to be some outside run issues that you may face to that, and then there's going to be some spacing intermediate underneath issues that you might see with that coverage if the other team can exploit them. But if that's the way you play, for us, our base check is man on number 1, palms on 2 and 3 with the down safety and the free safety and the stack backer. And then if they push 4 strong, we got to add the mic into the coverage. So we just have to understand that to the trip side, we get a little bit weak in run support. We can play some games with the D-line and bump the backer to help us a little bit, but they still have a 3 that can block the backer, which means your free safety would have to trigger and run the alley similar to palms. So, you just have to understand that if that's your trip check, there's going to be some things that are going to hurt you. And that's normally why, if you carry, like for us, the only 2 trips checks we have in right now are one that defends the trips and one that defends the single. And then down distance formation, where the back is, tendencies, you got to choose which 3-by-1 coverage you want to play based on what the other team does and where the back is. Just some deals like that, and what do they do in a run game? Do they have any quarterback run back to the single that can hurt you if you have to borrow the backside safety to the front side? But another thing to keep in mind with trips is when you pressure, that's going to be a different adjustment. If you 4 under 2 deep, 3 under 3 deep, 3 under 3 deep is probably a better zone pressure to 3-by-1 stuff. But if you play any man free, if you have any 5-man pressures that are man free, if you play any 1 rat stuff with a low hole player and a high hole player, all those are going to be different adjustments to trips. So when I say that we only have 2 trips adjustments, I mean in our base split field package, we only have 2 calls that the free safety can make. But as soon as I go to 5-man pressure 1 free, that's an adjustment. If I 0 pressure, that's an adjustment. If I zone pressure, that's an adjustment. So for the offense, all those things are going to look different to 3-by-1. So technically, on our end, those are all adjustments. But when I say 3-by-1 adjustments, I'm talking about the generic base way your free safety can call a 3-by-1 coverage. How many of those checks do you have in? And right now we only have 2. Most people would probably, try and play some type of poach, or triangle concept where the backside safety plays 3 vertical, because if you're a Palms team, then you can stay consistent in your coverage with the front side corner safety, Sam linebacker, Mike linebacker. Those guys can all play a lot of the same Palms rules, and then the backside safety, steals 3 vertical. So I think a lot of guys would be comfortable with that as their check. If you're a team that plays a true outside linebacker, that would probably be the check you put in, because you don't want a Sam backer defending a 2 vertical. So personnel also dictates how you would play trips checks, in my opinion. Tight end trips with the tight end attached is a bitch. And if you are playing a pattern match coverage with 2 and 3, depending on the split of 2 and 3, if 3 is the tight end, can you play that coverage? And if the tight end goes to the flat, can the free safety get to number 2? Is a question you got to ask yourself, because they've created an extra gap. Can you play that coverage and have the kicked out linebacker be a force player in the defense to the tight end side? That's going to be a question you have to ask. Can you defend all the one back runs you're going to see in the box, depending on what your trips coverage is? To that side, the safest thing to account for the run and maybe short passing game to that side would be some type of strong insertion, some type of 3 deep rotation with a buzz or a strong trip side safety spin insert down. But now you're going to be left with some single side run issues and some single side man issues. Spinning a safety down to play 3 deep is a good one if it's if they're tight end trips and they're very heavy run to the tight end side. If they can run things back to the single, spinning down sometimes strong, may not be the greatest. But that's tight end trips becomes a really game plan intensive thing for me to see what those teams can actually do with a true tight end in their trips game. So I would probably carry a version of each one to where we have some type of strong 3 deep rotation, and then we have some type of our base pattern match coverage. Again, if we can handle the extra gap to that side in our pattern match stuff, if we can handle that, then I feel okay. If we can't, then I've got to get to something else to support those runs, and that's something else I get to support those runs is probably going to give me some issues somewhere else. So I would be basing it, Kevin, on first thing I'd be basing it on is what does the other team do in tight end tray? What do they want to do? What are they trying to do? Where are their best players? Where does the ball go? And then I would probably figure out based on my personnel. Hey, Brandon, how you doing, bub? Based on my personnel, I think I would then try to determine what my kids do best to take away what the opposing team does best is the way I would look at trip stuff or tight end tray attached trip stuff. But it's an issue either way. It's something that we're doing. We're doing a lot more Y off. My new offensive coordinator is, but it's something that I wanted to do to create a 3-man surface because I know the issues it creates for us. We have some things where the Y is on and it's a true 3-man surface. We have some things where he's off and it creates a 3-man surface, but at the same time, he can zip the backside, he can insert and ISO, he can trade or motion. So for me, offensively, the best of both worlds is creating that 3-man surface while also doing it with a guy that is mobile enough and athletic enough to be that hybrid tight end fullback so he can give you some 2-back runs, but he also gives you that 3-man surface that you're looking for. And then a lot of times your game plan offensively will be dictated off of that. You get a 3-man surface. I think trips with a tight end nub on the backside might be even harder to defend because now you got to defend runs to that 3-man surface, and how you defend runs to that 3-man surface is probably going to dictate how you play coverage to the trips open. So, 3-by-1 with the tight end closed on the backside is another. That's a bitch now. 3-by-1 12 personnel with 2 tight ends is a bitch. Those are all things that give you a bunch of run support issues, and then they give you the same 3-by-1 trips issues and coverage. Can that tight end get vertical? Do they use them vertical? Can they get to 4 verticals from that set? Just those type questions that you got to think about. Defend what they do. Don't chase ghosts. Don't defend what you think they can do. Defend what they show you they can do. Defend what they do best. And then try to defend based on how you think your kids play, which is something we're going through right now. I'm trying to learn how our kids, on a varsity level going into week 1, I don't know. I have an idea, but I really don't know what our kids are comfortable doing. So I'm probably going to call some things Friday night that our kids don't do maybe as well as I think they might. And then game by game, I'm going to have to kind of tweak and maybe eliminate some things because our guys just can't do them in a game setting. So, everybody, including me, everybody's got their own issues week by week, game by game that they're dealing with their defense and their coverages. But I will say, I prefer to give up flats in general than vertical seam or curl area, because I don't think there's enough quarterbacks that can push the ball to the flat, and I don't think there's enough offensive coordinators who will continue to take routes in the flat over and over again and matriculate down the field. Sometimes those guys either get greedy or they get bored and they don't do it. So I would always rather give the flat up, keep everything in front, and then when the ball is thrown to the flat, try to keep it inside with the corner or whoever it may be, and in front and live to play another down, because I think offenses, statistically speaking, in high school, the more snaps they take, the more mistakes they make. So if we can keep that thing in front of us and give up flat throws, A, can the quarterback make them? B, can the coordinator continue to call them? So I would always prefer to give up underneath flat stuff if I had to give anything up. So they played some type of man-free one high where they played press man on 1 and 3 and then played off a number 2. I would think thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. There's some stuff up on the site. There's some shirts up and some things up on the site. If you look at Dome Headwear, currently, I think they have some Play Fast masks and some other things. So if you support the site and you want to support the site, then there's some gear out there you can get that you can find that I don't push really all that hard, but it's out there if you want to find it. But I appreciate it, Kevin. Have a great night. The only thing I'd be worried about with that, Tony, is once teams figure out that that's what you're doing, trying to maybe run one off and then get some rubs between 2 and 3, or getting 2 out of the equation. Yeah, I probably am not going anywhere, Kevin. I'll probably stay around. I'm not going anywhere, but what I do with the channel and how much better I can make it depends on some of the other stuff that we have going on, but definitely not going anywhere. With football coming up, I'll probably be doing some more work on my Patreon site where I'm using game clips. I just did a couple clips from our scrimmage the other day on my Patreon site where I talked through what we're doing, what we're trying to do with our defense, so you could actually see us playing things. You can see us line up. So rather than just me talking about it and putting on a board, you can actually see kids doing, which is something I never do on YouTube because YouTube's a free site. I'm not going to put that information out there for free. But on a subscription site, I have no problem showing film. And the way I do it, I show our film. I don't show college film. I don't show what Nick Saban does. I show you the same kids I'm teaching that you're trying to teach, and I take you through the same issues we have that you're going to have. So, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around. It's something I enjoy doing, something I like doing, and as long as I'm healthy enough to do it. Sometimes during the season it slows down because I got my own issues going on, and I don't want to take away. I don't want to take away from my kids because I'm doing other stuff. If you're asking where those videos are, it's on. If you go to patreon.com/Coach Mac, Patreon is a subscription site. It's $5 a month. I have some clips up there from my clinic last year. I have 2 webinars that I did on there. I have a bunch of different whiteboard videos and then some videos with clips from the last couple of years of us doing things on offense and defense in games. There's some pressure clips on there. There's some split field clips on there. There's some offensive RPO clips on there. So on that site, because it's $5 a month and a subscription site, I feel like $5 a month isn't breaking anybody's bank account. And for $5 a month, I feel like I can do more things with video. And then I'm starting to do podcasts again now that school's back, and I have my technology kid that played for me, who now teaches at the high school. Um, he's the one that runs all my podcasts technology wise. So I'm going to start doing podcasts again. Yeah, that's exactly how you spell it, Kevin. So it would be thatspelling.com/Coach Mac. Um, so it would look just like that. And then when you go to that site, thanks, Tony. When you go to that site, it's $5 a month. There's one standard subscription. That's all it is. There's nothing. We don't do anything different, anything extra. For $5 a month, you get access to all the videos I do that have clips on them. When I do have a clinic like I had last year, there's like 10 different 10-minute sections of videos from the. It'll come soon enough, Alex. Hang in there. We had to hang in there for a while, and now our season's here. So just keep grinding. It'll be there before you know it. But there's 10 different speakers from the clinic up there. There's, I think, 10 minutes from the session I did from the clinic. So there's a lot of good stuff up on that. For $5 a month, there's a lot of good stuff up on that Patreon site. As usual, there's no playbook stuff. I don't put my playbook up there. That's not the type of site it's for. It's me describing how we do things sharing my screen in a Zoom setting. Like today, I did a video today based on 12 or a couple plays from our scrimmage on Friday, how we're adjusting to having new players, where we made some mistakes, what we're trying to do. There's a couple pressures in there. There's how we play some 3x1 in there. So just different stuff like that with me sharing the screen and talking through it. And then when I share my huddle screen, I can draw on the screen and go through stuff like that. So I don't know if we're going to get it in January, Dan. Based on not knowing what hotels are going to be like and what travel was going to be like, I think January is going to be tough. I think we're hoping on maybe March or April. But if Glazier's up and running and Nike's up and running in March and April, I don't know how much I want to compete with Glazier and Nike right now. I don't know if we have the means to compete on the same weekend with them. Maybe if they have a weekend where they're in the Midwest or up north, we can steal a weekend in the Southeast where we do one. But I don't think January looks good right now. We have no idea. That clinic took almost a year to plan with speakers and hotels. And so we haven't been able to plan anything, not knowing what we could get with a hotel and not knowing who would travel and what the travel restrictions would be. Because that clinic last year had 14 different states represented and, guys coming from a bunch of different areas that we didn't know who would be able to fly, what travel would be like. So right now we're kind of in a holding pattern, kind of play it by ear, see what happens. We're definitely going to do it again. It was a big success last year. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And now that I've done it, it's something that I want to do better. Excuse me. Now that we got it off the ground, it's something that I want to do better. So I've also had some people mention that they would like to see if we can do one in different parts of the country. So, I've got a lot of ideas, a lot of things that I want to do. But right now it's kind of in a holding pattern. So I don't know if we'll be able to get it off the ground until maybe March or April, because we're going to have to figure out whether we can do it or not and then figure out what the travel restrictions are going to be. And then, a lot of people seem to think that when November comes and the election happens, that it's going to go away. I don't want to play that game and be part of a conspiracy theory. It is what it is. I don't control it. I don't know if it's going to stay, if it's going to go away. So we're going to kind of play it by ear right now, see what happens, see if month by month things get restricted or lifted, restrictions get lifted, and then come February, March, April, if the world is back to normal, then we'll take a look at the hotel we have and see if we can get it. It's a big wedding venue. So in Florida in March and April on the beach, I don't know if we can get that venue. So during that time, could we get the venue? Will people travel? And then do we have enough time to plan speakers and enough time to promote the clinic the right way would be would be the issue. And then can we steal a date? Maybe that Glazier or Nike's not active in the Southeast so that we feel like we can get the representation and the attendance we want at the clinic. So, yeah, I want to do it again. Hopefully I'll get that information out as soon as I can when we can start planning it. But for right now, it's just going to be YouTube and Patreon and social media stuff. So I appreciate all you guys being on tonight. Hopefully we answered. Thank you, Dan. Hopefully we answered some questions. Hopefully we discussed what our issues are going into week 1 and what I'm nervous about. We got practice tomorrow morning at 9:00, so I'll have to be up early, get to school, and make sure the practice plan is ready to go. Make sure the scout book's ready to go. And that's a shame, Daniel, but February's better than nothing. So just, again, keep your head up, keep grinding, keep working. Use this time to get better as a coaching staff and as a program. And, when February comes, hoping to, hopefully the kids are chomping at the bit, ready to play. So, we got practice tomorrow morning, so I'll have to be up pretty early. I've got to take care of some stuff at the house in the morning because my wife and kids are at Disney. Part of the life of being a football coach, I can't go to Disney with them right now as much as I would like to because we have practice tomorrow and we have a game this week. So, part of the downside that comes with the job when you take on being a head coach or a football coach, that there's going to be times where you can't do anything. And we're 2.5 hours from Disney. We're Disney pass holders, or at least my wife and kids are, and I have 2 daughters. So, it's just part of the deal right now. So I've got to get ready to have practice tomorrow and got to get up a little bit earlier than normal to take care of the cats and some other things, and then get to school, make sure practice is good to go, make sure the defensive side is ready to go for what we need to teach our kids with the game plan, make sure the scout books are ready to go. So hope you guys have a great night, the rest of your night. Hope you have a great Labor Day. A good holiday. Enjoy the holiday. If you're playing this week, good luck. If you're playing later in the year, thank you, Daniel. If you're playing later in the year, good luck to you. Stay safe. Continue to do everything you need to do. If you're in an area or your school is, hey, Lewis, how you doing? If your school is a mask school, then wear your mask where you need to wear your mask. Do all the things you're supposed to do this so that football stays around. We're extremely excited to play this week. Extremely nervous. Not knowing what our kids are going to do week 1, not knowing how we're going to show up week 1. But at the end of the day, it's a football game that our kids are going to enjoy, and our kids will get a chance to play. And, knock on wood, the worst case scenario is you lose a football game, and that's not the end of the world. So, all that considered, having a game this week, being able to game plan this week is just it's a blessing. Being healthy enough to do it is a blessing. All of our kids right now are healthy, which is a blessing. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they do. JV plays Thursday night. Varsity plays Friday. So excited to see our kids. Excited to see if we got any better. And, at the same time, nervous because not having a spring or a classic, I don't know what our kids are going to do. But either way, it's going to be a learning experience for the coaches and the players. And regardless of what happens this week, we're going to play 6 more JV games and 8 more varsity games. So we'll continue to work and get better, and hopefully the kids can learn how to get better. So I appreciate it, Jack. Thank you very much. Offense and defense. Yeah, hopefully it helped on at the youth level. I've never coached youth football, so I feel bad sometimes when youth coaches have questions because I really can't answer them because I don't know. Some youth programs have restrictions. There's certain things you can and can't do. I've never coached youth kids to understand if option football or read game football is possible. I've never coached youth kids in coverage. I know when I coach 9th graders coming up from junior high to varsity, I know that it's a big time struggle for me to get those kids to understand how to be a tempo team, how to run RPOs, how to get quarterbacks to mesh and read the things we need to mesh. How to get our linemen to block different inside zone, outside zone schemes, how to get defensive linemen and linebackers to fit runs. So I imagine it's 50 times more difficult at the youth level, but I just feel bad because I can't really help those youth coaches other than the content I provide because I've never coached it, and I would never go out of my way to tell somebody what to do in their setting when I've never been in that setting. So, hopefully, Jack, the content helps, and hopefully how I deliver it or teach it helps. a little bit. If you can deal with me saying okay or all right 50 times in a video, then um, I think maybe the content delivery and how we teach it helps a little bit. But I just feel bad because I've never been around coaching youth football enough to know the rules, the regulations, or what things you can actually get done and can't get done, because I've always been worried about JV and varsity high school football. So, but I appreciate it. Yeah, that's your job, Jack. In my opinion, if you want me to be 100% honest and transparent, you know, your job is to get them ready for middle school. The middle school's job is to get them ready for high school. The JV job is to get them ready for varsity. But lost in translation and all that stuff is coaches wanting to win and be competitive. So coaches end up doing things that don't always help the higher level because they're trying to be competitive with their team. And we felt guilty with it last year on defense and on offense. We only did the things our kids could do to stay competitive, and now it's hurting us with those JV kids that are trying to play varsity football because they can't play what we want to play. So always going to be techniques and fundamentals. It's always going to be stance and start. It's always going to be blocking and tackling. But if you could take it a step further and have your kids playing in something that the middle school does, or use terminology that the middle school does, that's a bonus. If the middle school can play in a system that the high school uses, it's a bonus. If you use the same terminology, it's a bonus. So there are some areas where they do it from the ground up, from Pop Warner youth ball all the way up to high school, and I think those places run better programs, and I think those kids are better off for what they're doing. So appreciate everybody that coaches youth football. God bless you. I day to day dealing with high school kids, sometimes I question what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and I can only imagine what it's like at the youth level. So God bless everybody that's coaching youth football and middle school football and JV football and high school football. It's a crazy world, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty cool gig, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So hopefully you guys have a great holiday. Hopefully you have a great week if you have a game week. And if I have time sometime next week before or while I'm game planning, I'll catch you guys and talk a little bit about how we did week 1. All right, guys, remember, you won't play well till you play fast. I'll catch you all next time.